How many games would you say turned you into who you are? I could only really say one. One game that quite literally cemented itself into my heart and soul, and one that, without it, I don't know what the internet, or even this entire generation, would be like. So hello everyone, my name is Shmenty, and this is my tribute to Minecraft. Video games were not my main escape as a child. I mean, I loved the ones that I played, but very rarely was I spending hours upon hours on them. I focused more on a tiny little thing called Legos. Everything about them was enchanting to me. The creativity and imagination that I haven't felt in years now came so easily to me back then. Put me in front of a box of completely random pieces and I could make something that to me was a masterpiece. I focused on things that were completely absurd and pure fiction. I focused on creating realities instead of just conforming to the one I was in. Any toy that allowed creativity, I loved. But on the video game side of things, I wasn't very well versed. I can flex on you guys with the fact that I used to have a Game Boy Color, yeah, and a Wii later, but mainly I played games like Pop Tropica or Club Penguin on the family computer. That was until I saw a kid playing a new game at a party one time. I was gonna go up and ask him what he was playing, but then my parents called me and I had to go. And that could have been it. It's so shocking to me that that could have been the last time that I laid eyes on this game. But fast forward about a year or two, it was 2013 and I was browsing YouTube like I did pretty much every other day. I saw a video pop up in my YouTube feed and I clicked on it.
My name is Etho, and this is my new Minecraft world that I've started.
As soon as I finished watching that video, I subscribed and started binge watching. Later that night, I began my greatest crusade of all time, to convince my mom to buy me Minecraft on her PowerBook. If you've never heard of that, it's probably because it's an old version of the MacBook. So the fact that it ran was surprising to me now. After a few weeks, I was able to do it, and I started playing. Looking back, I probably would have thrown the computer out if I started with it now, but back then, those sweet 20 frames were more than I needed to enjoy the blissful bare-bones game that was Minecraft. And it was perfect. But I was missing something. Multiplayer. At least I was until Christmas of either 2013 or 14 when I got an Xbox 360, and my life changed. I bought the Xbox version of Minecraft, even more bare bones than the one running on a computer made in 2004, but I got that sweet 10 FPS boost bringing me to a whopping 30, and I started playing. The tutorial world was incredible to me. I spent hours just flying around in creative. To this day, I don't think I actually ever did the tutorial. I spent days just creating worlds and exploring them, lighting things on fire and then doing the old exit without saving. I was in bliss. You see, my childhood was a bit abnormal. I was homeschooled until high school, and some of my closest friends were too. That might seem bad to some of you, which I can completely understand, but it also meant something else. If we could convince our parents, we could have sleepovers on school nights. And that's where it all got started. Dozens of sleepovers went by of us just sitting in each other's basements, junk food everywhere, living in the moment. School was a joke at the time, and none of us needed to study to do well, so we just played and played. Eventually, though, the Xbox 360 version began getting a little bit boring, so I migrated back to PC with one giant upgrade. We got an iMac that was made in 2007. That's right, I could kind of play on this thing. So, we started playing. One small problem, though. Realms didn't exist, and we had no clue how to start a server. So, we went and found some of the best servers and started playing. But mainly, we fell in love with factions. It was a PvP-centered, difficult game mode that we absolutely loved. Thousands of hours were played on those crappy PCs, and I wouldn't take it back for anything. After a couple of months, though, and a couple of forays into modded Minecraft, I began finding myself a little bit bored of the game that I loved. I don't know exactly why, and to this day, I still can't point at one thing that made it start getting a little boring to me, but it happened. And so I took a break. I found that at our sleepovers, we'd be playing first-person shooters like Black Ops 2 instead, and honestly, I had more fun too. So we kind of started to move on. Yeah, we all played the game off and on during the so-called Dark Ages after YouTubers like Sky Does Minecraft stopped really uploading, but it began getting more and more distant from me. I began to realize that the game I fell in love with wasn't the game I was playing anymore. It was something different. With every new update, with every mod I would try to install, or shader pack, or resource pack, I began finding that it never filled the hole. There was something inside me that was missing, something that this game brought me when I was a kid that I wasn't getting from it anymore. And eventually I realized that it was the simplicity. Back when I was a kid, I could barely build a dirt house. It would take hours for me to find diamonds, and I don't think I actually beat the Ender Dragon for, years. Every new valley that I stumbled across was a new part of world generation, not something that I had seen dozens of times, or even hundreds of times, like I have now. I think jshlatt ties it together perfectly in his tribute to Minecraft when he says, Minecraft is not knowing how to play Minecraft. To me, it's that change from adventure game into sandbox that really started the decline of how much I enjoyed it. When every new world was an adventure and something to go out and look for, something to beat, that is when I had the most fun. I guess I just miss when the game was simple, or maybe it was just simply that my life was simple. I didn't need to focus on complex things because the biggest problem in my eyes was how I was going to make a killer world for my friends to play on during our next sleepover. But that was in the past, and I was moving on rapidly, and I stopped playing the game. That was until a tribute to Minecraft came out, and I fell back in love. I might consider myself a man, but I cried when jshlatt was talking about the music in the game. I cried when he was talking about his old Xbox world. Today, my Xbox 360 sits hundreds of miles away in my parents' house as I sit in my college dorm room talking about who I used to be. That power book that I made my first couple of worlds on is long gone, recycled, laying in a landfill somewhere. And yet, this video brought me back to the game that I loved. I went to my computer, which was now very upgraded and could actually run games, and I downloaded the launcher, and I started playing. It didn't matter what I was playing, it didn't matter what I was doing. I was just roaming the world on a single-player world, something that I had done dozens of times, and yet right now, it was nostalgic for me. And it brought me to emotions that I haven't felt since. It brought me to memories that I really wouldn't give for anything. This game, no matter if you have 50 hours or 5,000, has touched millions. It has affected me to the point that I would honestly be lost today without it. I never journaled as a kid, but all you would have to do to figure out who I was is go to the world list on my old Xbox to see the years start to go by. This game transcends video games for me and goes straight to art. I fully expect it to live decades into the future. It's a classic that will continue getting updated with amazing updates from a good dev team. The closest thing I have to those old worlds that I played on with friends are some realms that I played on a couple months ago and now lay dead on my hard drive, untouched for months. It's kind of sad and yet bittersweet because I look back and I realize just how amazing I've really had it. I guess I'm just happy that I can look back and reminisce on the best years of my life. Not a care in the world, 2 a.m. with friends that I gladly would have taken a bullet for. Stupid mini-games we would make, and worlds that haven't seen the light of day for almost a decade. I miss those days. I miss the simplicity of life and the simplicity of this game. Because even though we all sucked, we sucked together. It brought me closer to the people I loved more than anything else in this world, and I doubt our friendships would still exist if not for this game. Everyone seems to have a memory like this with this game. Everyone has been so touched by these ones and zeros that in some way I feel like it's a part of this generation. Sure, we have our setbacks, but in all honesty, I'm proud of the things we've made. So, go whip out your old Xbox or PlayStation, go hit up your old friends from middle school, or maybe, if nothing else, just take a minute and reminisce on how happy you used to be playing this stupidly simplistic little indie sandbox. I don't know if this video is going to reach 10 people or 1 million, but if just one person is brought back to their childhood, then I'm happy. Minecraft is what I look to when I miss that childhood joy. The soundtrack is what I listen to if I'm anxious, and the game is what I play when I want something that doesn't get stale. Today, it sits proudly on my taskbar, and from time to time, I just go in and play. It doesn't have to be for too long, but just to ground me to the fact that we live here. We experience the birth of my favorite game of all time, and that, if nothing else, makes me happy.